Hello, something guys and gals. This is Something Guy 912. I have stepped quite a bit away from making videos that are more politically and or ideologically charged, mainly because I find discussions like this toxifying as opposed to having less polarizing things like gaming takes and or autistic ramblings about architecture. But I feel compelled to make this because of WOTC's recent announcement and how this is a repeat of a similar incident they did to pander to modern sensibilities in the most vain way imaginable. If you aren't aware of the spastic kind of videos that I've made before, 4 years ago I made a video called WOTC, the Vanity of Corporate Pandering, where I discussed WOTC's decision to ban several cards in lieu of the George Floyd protests. Most, if not all, the cards would have one wonder how one could infer any of these cards being racist, unless, of course, you were a massive racist yourself, and how this kind of broad logic can be used to further ban cards under this logic. And, wouldn't you know it, WOTC decided that the fictional realm of Kaladesh was a mite too problematic in lieu of the upcoming Aether Drift set that plans to return to that plane. I'm sure you're wondering how that term was racist and how WOTC apparently weren't in the know about it 9 years ago. Well, according to them, they had engaged with a group of subject matter and language experts, which doesn't sound like a completely made up job, mind you, who told them that the word Kala in Kaladesh can be, I repeat, can be translated from Hindu to black, and that carries with it derogatory connotations. Now, you're probably wondering what the Desh in Kaladesh means. Well, apparently it just means home or country in Hindu. So, with that in mind, Kaladesh can be roughly translated to black country or black home. How this phrase somehow demonizes black people, how any supposed racists hadn't been using this phrase commonly before these consultants stepped in, and how in the hells did WOTC not figure that no one else assumed racist intention from the set before? Well, of course, they didn't. All this is purely performative by them. But as I had concluded those years ago, with this extremely broad and frankly self-fulfilling need to seek racism anywhere and everywhere, you can make as absurd of a reach as you can and claim that other people who don't follow by that logic are the real racists here. Several examples I brought up include the Ixalan realm, where that set has the Dusk Legion faction, which are heavily inspired by Spanish conquistadors, and that wizards, by their own logic, are promoting racism by suggesting the Spaniards are blood-sucking vampires. Better yet, with this new absurdist logic and notion, is Black Lotus going to get banned in every set because it has the word black in it and could be inferred in a racist way? Well, of course not, because Black Lotus makes wizards the big bucks, not unlike when they banned Cleanse for board wiping non-white creatures, despite plenty of other cards in their lineup doing the same thing, since that card is pennies on the dollar. Of course, the other negative side effect of this performative virtue signaling that WOTC is doing is that now they've implanted people with the idea that their intentions to make the plane of Kaladesh, as they did, was purely out of malice and not out of ignorance. Even with ignorance in mind, no one, I repeat, no one who bought Kaladesh, played Kaladesh, and thought about Kaladesh ever once attributed racist intention behind the set. But WOTC apparently did, and were happy to ride the coattails of their own ignorance for 9 years until they just so happened to return to the plane. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if WOTC did this just to get people to talk about it out of outrage, like I'm currently doing now, just to get some eyeballs to go panic buy Kaladesh sets since now the term is verboten by them. But, given that WOTC have and will continue to retroactively take offense at things that no one even knew the deeper connotation of, basically, any card, any set, is on the line to be blacklisted. Oh, my bad, maybe I should have said person of color listed. That's just my whiteness talking. Which means you shouldn't trust WOTC to have somehow be aware of their prior sets if it takes them this long to suddenly realize the error of their ways. Like Troll's remorse without the actual trolling to come with it. Because, let's be honest, the people who they consulted with need any reason to perpetuate their own existence, so of course it is in their best interest to find any which way to bring WOTC's arm to tasks so that they justify getting a paycheck in the mail. And if it isn't cynicism that's driving their motivations, then it's guilt and an acknowledgement that these consultancy firms are the most professional racists out there for even making that correlation to begin with. If stone-throwing devils was enough for them to make an analogy to anti-Semitism, but given the current ideology of the left towards the Jews, maybe that car will be re-unbanned, then I wonder what other skeletons they have in their closet of racism. Ultimately, this need to sanitize things under the most vaguest form of racist or bigoted intent only serves to undermine when racism and bigotry actually occur. There was no fanfare when Jussie Smollett orchestrated a hate crime on himself because he inadvertently casted further doubt on the legitimacy of grievances that black people have in this country. When Dragon Age the Veilguard felt it necessary to make a trans character that was all the worst aspects that people hate about them, it only made actual trans people feel it perpetuate those stereotypes in turn. And for Wizards, what exactly do they think this will help to achieve? Like, did people praise from the rooftops when Imprison or Crusade were banned those years ago? At best, people were indifferent as a result of the obscurity of these cards in any formats, and at worst, it caused people to see racism and bigotry where they otherwise wouldn't. The exact opposite intention, I'm sure, of Wizards in promoting this change going forward. At this rate, I actually hope that Elon Musk buys Hasbro like he joked on doing, just to massively downsize the company like he did Twitter, and as a result have these consultancy firms out of a job, because they're going to do much more harm to Magic's legacy than Wizards will ever realize.